How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. It was the most predictable thing. The moment I saw it, I knew. That's how predictable the press is. Donald Trump, and again, I'm saying tweet because it's a tweet. It's whatever his website with Truth, whatever social, and now you got X. It's still their tweets. When I say he tweeted, you know what I mean. On social media, he put something up, and let me read this for you. The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We're not going to allow this to happen, and I've instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made. The country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums. The moment I saw that, I was like, I know what the media is going to do. They're going to seize on how bad slavery was. That 4-word segment in there. Oh, Donald Trump doesn't think slavery's bad, does he? In fact, to pick on my friend Jamie Dupree just a little bit, used to work with us here at my flagship station, is in Washington, D.C., longtime Capitol Hill reporter. Last night on social media, Jamie put out a tweet himself, and in doing so, he tweeted, let me see, where is it? He said, here it is. Is this what you voted for? Is this what you voted for? That Donald Trump would do this about slavery? And I replied, that's not why I voted for him, but it is an added bonus. It actually is an added bonus. And of course, people came after me, suggesting that me saying that meant that I didn't believe slavery was bad. Yep, your host, who often tries to tell you to empathize with other people, that somehow I did. Yeah, here it is, open mic from Jamie Dupree. If you voted for Trump, did you really vote for him to spend time changing the museum exhibits at the Smithsonian about slavery? No, but it's an added bonus, I said. Let me tell you, I knew exactly what Trump meant when he said this last night, or when he tweeted this, how bad slavery was. Let's be clear up front with the parameters. Slavery was terrible. In fact, American chattel slavery was one of the worst forms of slavery. There was slavery in the Roman Empire, and oftentimes it was debt slavery. It wasn't slavery, chattel American slavery like we think of. Slavery in the medieval period and in ancient Rome was actually more humane than what the American Southerners did to slaves. And there are people who have tried to revise it and claimed that, they were all in the family and it was just a few bad apples. No, it was bad. It was also typically African tribes selling the people they had captured into slavery. There was way more complicity, and it was also the white Christians who were the ones who led the effort to abolish slavery. In fact, New England states in the United States actually led the world in abolishing slavery. It was New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut that actually banned slavery before Great Britain did, and it was their banning of slavery that led William Wilberforce in Great Britain to lead the charge to ban slavery, and the British Empire finally sprung into action, and it was the British Empire that shut down the global slave trade. It was, to put it another way, a bunch of white people who shut down the slave trade. But you know what? Critical theory has broken the brains of a bunch of progressives, and you go to a lot of museums in the United States, and you'll be hard-pressed to find exhibits on any of the white people who played a role in the founding of this country, except for the presidents. They're the obvious ones. But there's been this desire, there's been this wild overcorrection without much balance. It's very much like we're seeing with like Cracker Barrel and Target and the wild progressive overcorrection there. There are non-white, non-male people who played a role in the founding of the United States. But if we're really honest about it, their role was not nearly as significant as the men who got together in Philadelphia and signed the Declaration of Independence or wrote the Constitution, all of whom were white men. To downplay the role of the white men doing something that actually was a good for humanity. I mean, just ask yourself, is the world better off with or without the United States? If your answer is without it, you're a broken person. The world is much better because of the United States. And our museum system, including the Smithsonian, in order to elevate diversity and highlight non-white men who were instrumental in the projects that led to the founding of this country and its governance for 200 plus years, decided we need to pick some random person whose biography we can amplify and exaggerate to show that non-white people were involved as well. Which is all well and good. That's fine. But you know, we got now a National Museum of African American History on the Mall. And that museum, part of the Smithsonian, put out a pamphlet a couple of years ago on what was whiteness. And what they claimed whiteness was being accountable for your work, showing proof of your work, not just the answer, being on time, being responsible, having a sense of objectivity. All these things were signs of whiteness. No, it's not signs of whiteness. That's signs that you're a broken brain if you're producing that. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say something. Don't fall into the trap I'm laying for some of you mind-numbed automatons from Rio Linda. We have a museum of African American history now as part of the Smithsonian. Where is the museum on white people? Where is the National Museum of White American History? Your response is going to be, well, we have a Museum of African American History because all the other museums are about white history. We got the Museum of American History. That's the white museum. Except those museums have now overplayed diversity. They brought in the pictures of the paintings from Black Americans and Hispanic Americans and Native Americans. They brought in the information stuff, and so those museums themselves have tried to downplay the influence of the founders of this country who happen to be white because they wanted to elevate non-white voices. There's nothing wrong with that, except now you've got an explicit museum dedicated to African American history. So why not one dedicated to white history? And if you're going to say, well, all the other museums are, well, then they should reflect it. But they don't, because they've decided to downplay white contributions to American history. Nobody wants to find balance. And you'll remember that the National Museum of African American History actually refused to add Clarence Thomas to its exhibits at the express demands of Barack Obama because he didn't like Clarence Thomas. True story. So even the Museum of African American History is not the Museum of African American History. It's the Museum of African American History the left wants you to know about. Are you going to see Frederick Douglass and know that he was a Republican, or Martin Luther King Jr. that he was a Republican? Or that Harriet Tubman was a Republican? Are you going to learn any of that? Probably not. History's complicated. There are white and non-white people, men and women, who played a role. By the way, just men and women. No Z's and Zers, just men and women. But you go to the Smithsonian, you're going to find some Z's and Zers as well. It's one of the weird things about progressivism, too, in the amplification of diversity. Like every major, prominent figure in history who is long dead is now suddenly gay. Have you noticed that as well? Like they're all except the ones who explicitly were gay and not good people. Well, they're not gay. They actually were painted as gay. But all the other people who we don't know were gay, they're suddenly gay. It's this wild quest for very weird diversity qualification for everybody. As opposed to here's this person who played a role in history. We don't care who he had sex with. Can't do that. In the name of diversity. And then one of the things that happened is the 1619 Project. Remember the 1619 Project, advocated by major prominent progressives, including the New York Times, by Nicole Hannah-Jones, a fabulist, it seems, made stuff up. Even prominent liberal historians said this is not true. She tried to make the case that the rise of the United States was all about the preservation of slavery. That's not actually true. In fact, American colonies banned slavery before we were a nation. Northern American colonies banned slavery. Ironically, there have actually been a number of studies, too, and this is where the weird thing is. So the left, because they're progressives, because they buy into Marxist ideology, believe that there is a value to labor. And so it was actually the left, not the right, that invented the idea that Southern American mercantilists had to use slavery to prop up their economy. We actually know from the economic studies of the time that the use of slaves actually hurt the GDP of Southern states. Did you know this? I wonder if you've learned this in school. Slavery is actually a net negative to a country's gross domestic product, but because the left believes that labor has value, they've had to impute the value of slavery to the Southern economy. But actually, the northern states became more efficient because they banned slave labor. The free market actually in the northern states that was not subsidized by a class of slaves actually was more productive than the slaveholding class. Are you going to get that? No, probably not. Why? Because progressives have to make a big deal about the value of labor. They impute that to the slaves, and they have some wealthy southern plantations that actually were less wealthy than they could have been had they divested the slaves, but they were addicted to slavery, which was bad. But there's a lot more to the country than slavery, and that was Donald Trump's point. We are a nation of great depth and breadth. And making everything about race relations in the country and going out of their way to highlight non-white people at the expense of actually very prominent white people who played a role in the founding of the country. It's dumb. It's not actually accurate. You may not like that the founding of this country was predominantly by prominent white men, but guess what? It actually was. And the Smithsonian and other museums in the country are the last bastion of progressives trying to rewrite American history. They tried at the New York Times, and even progressive academics were like, wait, 1619 Project is a bridge too far even for me. This stuff isn't true. You don't hear about Nicole Hannah-Jones anymore. Remember, the New York Times was going to turn it into a curriculum, and it fell flat when even left-wing historians came out and said, what you're got in here isn't true stuff. The United States, slavery is our original sin. It is. And if you actually read the writings of the founders, they knew it. And the founders actually decided that it was better that we fight Great Britain and become an independent nation, and then we'll deal with slavery. They kicked the can down the road. Even people like Thomas Jefferson in their writings to others said, slavery has got to end. We can't say that we are all born equal and endowed by our Creator with these inalienable rights if we're excluding a class of mankind from that. We are hypocrites. We must deal with the slave issue. And they kept kicking the can down the road until the Civil War. But you wouldn't know that from these left-wing projects. You would think that our founders wanted this country as a bastion of slavery, which simply wasn't true. And you don't have to believe me because you can read them in their own words. I challenge you, go get the book, The Ideological Origins of the American Revolution. The historian Bernard Balin was so tired of this idea that this was a mercantilist upper middle class revolution of business interests. He actually went back and he read the writings of the poor and the middle class, because it was a very literate nation at the revolution. And guess what? He found out they all really believed this stuff. They all really believed slavery is bad, but we got to fight Great Britain first. We'll get to it later. And they never did. He's got their diary entries. He's got their letters to each other. But you wouldn't know that from the left, because the left is trying to tell a history of the United States to discredit the American project. Because at the end of the day, so many of the people on the left, including those in charge of museums, have concluded the world would be better off without the United States. And history actually shows the United States continues to be the last best hope for mankind. And that's how Donald Trump wants our museums to reflect this country. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's true. Hello, how are you? It's Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. Jeff, you're going to be next today. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Eric, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Hi. Well, thank you again. Been a minute since I talked with you, going back to the Fulton County elections in 2022. You're the only thing that got me through those 12-hour shifts.
Appreciate it.
I have a convert for you, by the way. My wife was a captive audience coming back from Michigan, and we listened to you both days. And she looked at me, and we pray for you and your wife every time you have to go.
Well, look, Jeff, I sure appreciate it. Now, we got about a minute here, so I need you to get to the point, though. But thank you.
Very quickly. The Cracker Barrel thing, I'm looking at it from a 70-year-old's perspective, and obviously we are a dying breed, figuratively and literally. But basically, the success of Cracker Barrel, from my opinion, is the nostalgia. Because honestly, the food is really good, but it's generic, like most restaurants like that, because most of them don't prepare it on site. It comes in and they set it up for delivery. But that's the thing that draws everybody, is looking back and seeing all the hand tools and all the equipment and stuff. It's a chance for folks to kind of go back and relive another time that's long been gone. So, and I honestly, since the food is kind of generic tasting, the new ones, I would never go back into one. So,
yeah, and you know, by the way, you bring up that generic taste. It used to actually not be that way, but over time, to save money, more and more of the food has been essentially brought in, packaged, they heat it. But the biscuits used to be made in-house, things like that. And you know, Jeff, there's actually a New York Times story today that talks about this rebranding, and that one of the reasons for the rebranding was because the management decided Cracker Barrel was quote-unquote white-coated. And they didn't like that. Honestly, Cracker Barrel, in my experience, has been a while since I've been there, since all this, one of the most diverse groups of people eating you'd see. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them, save $200, get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, at EdenPureDeals.com. They're an air purifier. They're small. Keep it in your travel bag. I mean, I literally keep one in my travel bag. You can plug it up with a USB cord. You can plug it directly into the wall. EdenPureDeals.com is the website. The discount code is ERIC3. So they get rid of pollen, dust, pet dander. They kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses that go through the machine. But also, it generates ozone that gets into the air and wipes out odors, smoke odors, litter box odors, pet odors. No odor can stand up to it. You can get one for your upstairs, downstairs, basement, RV, travel bag, wherever you need it. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC, ERICK, followed by the number 3, ERIC3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Greetings, conversationalists. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. I'm broadcasting from my flagship station in Atlanta, Georgia today, where the Vice President of the United States is coming to mess up our traffic. In fact, let me pull this up right now for people listening. It's not actually terrible around here yet. He's going to Peachtree City, which is like the golf cart capital of the world. Peachtree City is a planned community, got golfers and all sorts of stuff down in south of Atlanta. It's a very nice community, and basically everybody works for Delta there, or they work for the FAA. You got a lot of Delta pilots who live there, but they've also got a refrigeration company down there, where the vice president is going to highlight the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and its effects on the city and on the economy. And it's one thing Republicans are starting to realize they got to do. They got to start talking about the upside of the legislation because it actually isn't a popular bit of legislation. And there actually are real concerns about its profitability, its whether it's busting the budget, whether people are getting benefits out of it, Medicaid, Medicare cuts, things like that. While all of this is going on, Gavin Newsom has decided to, do a Trump shtick. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has decided to begin randomly tweeting like he's Donald Trump. He blasted Cracker Barrel's logo. He's insulted people. He's doing it in all caps. He's trying to make a mockery of Donald Trump. And I look at it and I was like, this is, again, it's so iterative. It's not very original. He's just trying to ridicule people, Trump, who they're upset with Gavin Newsom. In fact, I had a reporter say, you don't understand what Gavin Newsom is doing. Gavin Newsom is highlighting the hypocrisy of people who let Trump get away with stuff that they're blasting Gavin Newsom for. And I didn't reply back, but I wanted to know, you don't understand. Like, Americans understand Donald Trump. They may not like it, but it's Donald Trump style. And Gavin Newsom trying to throw Trump style in people's faces, it doesn't actually work except for a hotbed of progressives. And everybody else is like, this is kind of dumb. Why is he pretending to be Donald Trump? But so much of American progressivism is devoid of originality these days. It's the best he's got. Texas is on the verge of redistricting. Now, let me tell you that the Texas thing is not a done deal because here's what's going to happen more likely than not. The progressives are going to run to court in Austin, Texas, and they're going to find a federal judge who was appointed by Obama or Biden, if they can, and they're going to get a hold on the Texas redistricting. It'll get to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. That's going to say it's okay. It may get challenged all the way to the Supreme Court, potentially, but probably it's going to take a little while for the Texas to go into effect, but it's probably going to happen. So Gavin Newsom wants to rewrite the congressional districts in California. Republicans are like, you can't because there's a constitutional amendment in place and you have to use the nonpartisan redistricting commission that's not actually nonpartisan. What the Democratic argument in California is going to be, well, that only applies to decennial redistricting done at the beginning of every decade. This is a mid-decade redistricting, so the commission doesn't apply to it. That's going to go to court in California. And the California Supreme Court, which is stacked full of progressives, is going to say, yep, that's right. This doesn't work. And then there's going to be a federal court case about that, and California probably can win that case because, the California Attorney General is a progressive. He's not going to go defend the people of California or their Constitution. He's going to defend the redistricting. Do you realize, by the way, that so much of what we do in the United States now is all premised on people doing stuff, and in the background, their voice saying, gosh, I hope the courts stop us. They're doing it hoping the courts stop them, and in this case, the courts aren't going to stop it. The courts are ultimately going to let Texas do what Texas does and California do what California does, respective of the law, because California progressives on the California Supreme Court are beholden to the progressive politicians, not to the California Constitution. And there's a problem for the Democrats. They're taking the bait. When Texas redraws its districts, it may get a pickup of 5 seats in the House of Representatives. That's not enough to stop the wave of Democrats coming in. The odds are the party outside the White House does well in the midterms. We're seeing that people who support Donald Trump are low propensity voters. They don't show up in the midterms. And when they do, they vote at the top of the ticket. They don't go down the ticket. House races are further down the ticket. A lot of people, like, look at Mike Rogers up in Michigan. Donald Trump won Michigan in 2024. People who are Trump voters, they voted for Trump, and then they walked out. They only voted for Trump. They didn't vote for Rogers. He lost by 19,000 votes because 19,000 Trump voters only went in to vote for Trump and no one else. And they're not coming in 2024 or 2026. Because Trump's not on the ballot. So the party outside the White House tends to do good in the midterm elections. If the Republicans redraw Texas, which they're intending to do to pick up 5 additional seats, that's not going to be enough to stop the wave of Democrats. And now here comes California. They're going to redraw their seats and possibly pick up 5 Democratic seats, and that's going to be net zero. But here's the beauty of the system. It's a trap. It's a trap. See, Republicans are trying to get Ohio and Indiana and Missouri to draw new lines. Indiana, Ohio, and Missouri have not been interested in drawing new lines. So it was all going to be a wash. Texas would gain 5 Republican seats. California would gain 5 Democrat seats. We could go battle it out in the midterms. But the California ramming this through the way they're doing it, ignoring their Constitution and all, you've got Republicans now saying California doesn't care about their own laws. California doesn't even care about their Constitution. Their Supreme Court doesn't care about the Constitution. This is unjust. We're going to respond. And so now what California is doing, I mean, if Texas added just 5 seats, the Democratic wave that's probably going to be pronounced in the midterm elections just because of the nature of the midterms is going to wash those out too. The Democrats still take back the House. Now, suddenly, because of California's behavior, because of Gavin Newsom's behavior, Missouri is going to rewrite us. And Missouri just unveiled their new map. There will only be 2 Democratic seats in Missouri. Indiana has said it doesn't want to redistrict, but if California redistricts, it will redistrict. Ohio has said the same thing. There's really not a desire to redistrict Ohio. And suddenly with California going to the road, Ohio suddenly is like, we may redistrict as well. And you know what's going to happen? That's going to inspire New York to get involved. But New York can only go so far. Illinois really can't rewrite its maps to get rid of their Republicans as much as they want. Most of the outside analysts are like, the Republicans are going to win this thing. All because Gavin Newsom took the bait. He can't help himself. Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. That's why he's doing the Trump shtick online, trying to rub people's nose in Trump's behaviors and stuff like that. And the left is buying it. Now, I got to tell you, I talked to a Democratic strategist last night who was telling me that nobody likes Newsom. That's something that you don't understand because you see your progressives online like, oh, yeah, he fights. But actually, they don't like him. The strategists don't like him. The other governors don't like him. The elected officials, they don't like Gavin Newsom. They think he's a pretentious, ickday, to use the big Latin. They don't care for Gavin Newsom. But Newsom is trying to get a leg up. Now, this Democratic strategist I was talking to last night says actually what's going to happen is that Newsom's going to flame out. Newsom is going to fly too close to the sun. He's going to be burned out. He's going to be yesterday's news. He's not going to be able to consolidate support because Democrats don't particularly like him outside of a level of activists in the base. The donors don't like him. The politicians don't like him. They're looking for someone who can build bridges. They think Newsom in California is too liberal. He's going to alienate people. And so just let him get it out of the system right now. But what's going to happen is Newsom is also going to bear the blame for Democratic losses in November in the midterms next year, where the Democrats have a chance to win Congress. But by pushing through redistricting, ignoring California's Constitution, getting the Supreme Court of California to ignore California's Constitution, he's going to incite these Republican states to start doing their redistricting, and they're going to get an advantage in the redistricting process. All because Newsom wanted to be seen as fighting. All because Newsom decided if they do it, we're going to do it. We're going to show we fight. I fight. I'm running for president and I want to show I'm a fighter. God bless you, man. You have taken the bait and you are now going to get these Republicans who have sat on the sidelines and said they weren't going to do it. Now they're going to do it. It's, Donald Trump's superpower is this. At the end of the day, Donald Trump's singular superpower is this. Donald Trump gets other people to behave in ways they say he behaves. Whether you think Donald Trump is an authoritarian or not, he gets Democrats to behave in authoritarian ways. Just think about this. The California Constitution says that redistricting is done by a nonpartisan commission. And it's not a nonpartisan commission. What they did is they had a bunch of Democrats declare themselves independents and they put them on. One of the Republicans on the California Redistricting Commission is a major Democratic donor. But they have the veneer of it, and it's that commission that's supposed to redo the districts. And now the Supreme Court in California has told Republicans they don't have a leg to stand on to even fight the redistricting. Donald Trump and his team have gotten the Democrats to behave in the way they claim Donald Trump behaves. And in the process, that's going to inspire these other Republicans to start their redistricting process. And the best Newsom has is the memes against J.D. Vance. I mentioned this yesterday. It's kind of weird. He's got his social media team putting up pictures of J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom at the same age. And J.D. Vance was a goofy-looking guy in high school, and Gavin Newsom looked like the high school sexual predator that is the bad guy in all the 1980s and early 90s movies. And eventually, though, Gavin Newsom went off to do whatever Gavin Newsom did, and J.D. Vance went off to be a Marine and to fight for his country. He was willing to lay down his life for his country. Newsom was just willing to lay down in bed with the hotties. He was in his 30s, like dating like a 19, 20-year-old or something like that when he was in San Francisco. J.D. Vance was off fighting for his country. They're taking the bait. They're taking the bait in a way that's going to get Republicans to engage in a redistricting fight they didn't want to engage in. And the Republicans are going to draw more seats than the Democrats. And that's not me saying that. That's not the RNC saying that. That's the outside observers of this saying California going down the road. They could have just left Texas alone. They would still take the House. But by California doing what it's doing, it's going to incite these other Republican states to get engaged. And the Republicans, they're going to be able to draw more seats because the Democratic states are already so gerrymandered, it's impossible for them to gerrymander further. The Democrats have taken Donald Trump's bait yet again. Now, I want you to take Hillsdale College up on their offer to give you a great education on a topic you're interested in by going to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You'll be able to take a class from Hillsdale College. In fact, my son's an A-Push American, A-Push American, what is it? No, what is it? Accelerated A. It's the AP class. Yes, AP U.S. History, A-Push. And he's studying the Federalist Papers. Like, son, you need to listen to the Hillsdale College class on the Federalist Papers. You're going to learn a lot from that beyond what your professor teaches you or your high school teacher teaches you. It's great, and it's no charge. You get this great education on the Federalist Papers or on capitalism or on citizenship or on C.S. Lewis or on Shakespeare or on basic economics or chemistry or math at no charge to you. They're 30-minute videos. You walk through the class. Each lesson is 30 minutes. Some are 7 videos, some are 12, depending on the class. 30-minute videos. You do it at your own pace with some of Hillsdale's best faculty at no charge to you. Get a certificate of completion from Hillsdale College, and you learn. You learn about a topic you're interested in. It's your choice. 40 different topics. ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K. ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College. They get smarter about something you're interested in at no cost to you with the Hillsdale College faculty at ericforhillsdale.com. As I mentioned, J.D. Vance is going to Peachtree City, Georgia today. The protesters are out in force. Several different listeners have sent me pictures of the protesters down there. It is the most lily-white crowd. It looks like they're leaving the Cracker Barrel, I guess, given what they think about Cracker Barrel. But here's the thing. The amount of unnatural hair color. It's like the local Starbuckses must all be closed. They must not have people able to work today because the baristas are all out protesting J.D. Vance. I mean, and also it's a lot of old white people. If they're young people there, they're clearly baristas given their unnatural hair color. Otherwise, it's like geriatrics. They've been let out of the nursing home to go protest J.D. Vance. There aren't a lot of Hispanic people protesting. There aren't a lot of black people protesting. It's what white people do. White progressives. They don't have to go to the Unitarian or the Episcopal Church on Sunday. They all showed up today for their fellowship operation and the UMC down there protesting JD. Y'all, it really has become this religious thing among the secular whites. We're going to go protest today. We're going to go get our signs out. They've gone to their they're protesting Target. They can't go to Target. They won't go to Walmart. Where do they go? They go to Whole Foods, I guess, and ask for the cardboard that they're going to recycle it after they finish it. So they've gone to Whole Foods. They've gotten their cardboard. They've gotten their organic carrot juice made markers to be able to do their organic homeopathic marker set. They've sprayed their essential oils, and now they're ready to go press J.D. Vance. They've got their sage brushes, and they've got their crystals out there to protest Vance down in Peachtree City. It's what the progressive whites do. And then afterwards, they'll go to Whole Foods for a chai latte or something. I don't understand. The progressive whites have too much time on their hand. Normal people are at work today. Normal people don't have time to go see J.D. Vance at the refrigerator place in Peachtree City. It's just the barista whites and the old progressive whites who've got to have something to protest to make them feel good. So when they go to the Episcopal and the Unitarian churches on Sunday, they don't have to tithe because they'll have given their time to the church instead of their money by standing out there with their Whole Foods organic cardboard protesting. People have too much time on their hands. How do you, I don't, by the way, there aren't a lot of Democrats down there, so they were probably bussed in too. A bunch of bussed in whites. Now, isn't that funny? Nobody wants to sit on the back of the bus on the bussed in whites when they go down to Peachtree City to protest J.D. Vance. Just wow. All right. We've had our fun with the protest whites down in Peachtree City. Things white people like to protest Republicans. By the way, how do I know that these people are not actually from Peachtree City? No golf carts. No golf carts. If you know anything about Peachtree City, Georgia, when I was in college, my roommate Brian, his family, I think, were the only people in Peachtree City that did not own a golf cart. Everybody in Peachtree City has a golf cart, and none of these white people down there protesting have golf carts with them. So clearly they've been bussed in by somebody. They rounded up the local baristas from the coffee houses. Anybody who had a Zer as their defined pronouns, they're like, hey, we got something for you. Let's get down there with the old white protesters. It's not going to help them. When we come back, we got to move on to other things from the white protesters to the Democrats now explicitly defying court orders. And the Democrats are cheering on the Democrats, defying the court orders. They're doing what they said Donald Trump would do, and yet now they're really, really happy about it being done.